Hello everybody, welcome to my first video series on StarCraft 2. My name is Dane. I play for Team Impulse, not competitively, but I am a Masters player. And I've been doing a lot of coaching lately, and I decided that I want to make a video series that kind of explains the basic things that you need to know about the game for people who maybe are having a hard time processing that information from the sources that is available, or whatever the reason is. I just want to create an easy way for everyone to watch this and just have a good tutorial for just getting your foot in the door of competitive StarCraft 2. I'm going to be making 3 of these videos. This is the first one. This is going to be PVZ, which means Protoss versus Zerg. I'm going to be going over the basic terminology of the matchup. I'm going to talk about the basic concepts you need to know, and mostly I'm just going to talk about how to open, how to get into the first 10 minutes of the game perfectly, because it's a very standardized matchup. There's different ways of doing it. I'm going to be teaching you a way that I rely on because it works on most maps, called a Forge Fast Expand. You've probably heard of. I don't know if you've I don't know who is comfortable or not comfortable. I hope that this is probably going to stay in the metagame for a long time. And I think it's a really safe way to get into the mid game against Zerg, and I'll teach you how to take your third and everything like that too. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a game on Daybreak. I'm not going to even play against anyone right now because I want to pause it a lot and I want to explain things. So I'm going to just put a very easy Zerg just for the ease of simulation. I'll put everything on the normal settings, faster, all that good stuff. So the idea that you want to focus on in PVZ is making sure that the Zergs isn't allowed to do whatever he wants with his economy, while making sure that you do what you want with your economy. So what you want to do, sorry, I better just set myself to busy. What you want to do is you want to get your base up as fast as possible, your first base, because you don't want to be on a one base build against Zerg. One base build, they're going to be able to get their expansion up no matter what, and they're going to be 2 base versus 1 base. That's not a good situation for you. That's not what you want to be doing. There's not a whole lot you can do on 1 base. It's not a very deep strategy to stay on 1 base. So what you want to do is generally most of the good stuff that you want to be doing is on 2 or 3 bases as Zerg. So you want to focus on getting your second base up as fast as possible. So I'm just going to explain how to do that first. So when I say, I'm going to explain a couple of things first. The first thing is bases. Obviously, a base is your nexus. You want to take as many bases as you can in the game. Bases are good. I'm assuming you know that. This is up here, your supply. The number of your supply that you're at is a very, very common way for people to explain when to build things. That's like when you see a build order, you'll see like 9 pylon, 13 gateway, things like that. A lot of people don't know that. That's whatever supply you're at. So it means that when you're at that supply, that's when you should be building that as soon as you have the money. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to send our guys to the minnows. You probably won't have to do that. You probably have it set automatic. And make your first worker. So I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm not going to be playing super fast. I'm just going to be explaining things nice and easily. So you want to constantly make workers. That's the number one thing in every matchup that you want to be doing. And when I'm just going to constantly make workers, I'm not doing anything else for now until I'm at 8 supply. So at this 8 supply, I want to rally this probe to my natural expansion and make another probe. So now I'm at 9 supply and I want to build my first pylon. Now, this area here is your natural expansion. It's called your natural because it's the most obvious place for you to take your first base. It's part of your base. It's meant to be yours. You just have to take it. You have to find a safe way to take it. Against Zerg, since there's not a whole lot that they can do early game that you can't scout, you're going to be taking this base really, really fast. So your first pylon is going to be put in this little choke point here. This is called a choke. It's your natural choke point. You want your pylon either as part of this wall that you're going to make across here to prevent Zerg from getting in, or you want it to be able to power buildings that will go across this entire wall. So I'm going to put it in a way that my pylon radius just goes to the edge of this ramp here and this little edge of the map here. So I want as much as that as possible so that I can start building my forge here and my gateway here and then another pylon here. So right when I'm at this much money, this probe is already here. You're going to build this pylon here, and you're going to send this first probe right to his base. You're going to make sure now that you're building another probe. And this probe you have to keep on this hotkey. This probe is very, very important. I usually set this probe to hotkey 1 or control group 1. And you can just tap back and forth between your base and your probe. And that's a good habit to get into. Just check on him, check back in your base, make sure you're building stuff. The next thing is you want to be spending your chrono boost on probes for the first very long time in this game. I'm going to be constantly chrono boosting probes. You want to spend the chrono boost as soon as that pylon finishes. I know I didn't because I was busy explaining something, but as soon as that pylon finishes, so you're not supply blocked, you want to spend this chrono boost. Never let yourself get high chrono boost. Always spend that chrono boost as soon as possible, unless you're supply blocked and it doesn't do anything, or unless you're really saving it for an important reason. In the lower leagues, you probably just want to spend it all on probes because that's how you keep up with the other races, because Zerg can make a ton of workers at once and Terran have mules. So your way of keeping up with that is by making probes with chrono boost so you get the most amount of workers. Okay, so this probe is going to be getting to this base. You don't have to worry about building any buildings for a while. So all you have to do is queue up lots of workers. I'm even going to queue up one more here and spend my chrono boost again. And then I'm just going to go around this guy's base. I'm going to go around the back of his minerals, and I'm going to do a couple little lines like this. And what you're checking for here is you're checking for his spawning pool. You want to check for his spawning pool and his gases. If you see gases, that's kind of a dangerous situation for you later, because he's going to probably be going for either Zergling speed really fast, which is really scary if you don't have a wall, or he's going to be going for roaches or banelings or some kind of bust. Or he could just be getting a fast speed just because he's getting a fast speed. But it's important to remember that if the Zerg is if you're doing a Forge Fast Expand, and the Zergling gets Zergling speed off of 2 bases before he gets a 3rd base, he's not playing a very economic focused style. He's going to be behind economically, so you don't have to worry about getting the economic advantage if you see him getting speed. You just have to worry about being safe. So what you want to do is you want to wall off completely when you see that, when you see him taking one of his gases, and you want to be getting an extra cannon and a sentry, things like that, because you're totally safe. You're not gonna we're not safe. You want to become safe, but you have the economic advantage. So right here, I'm just gonna pretend that this AI is a player. Okay, let's say I see the spawning pool now. Okay, that's not a very early pool. It's at 14 supply, which is about what you want to see. If you saw a pool that was already finished, a spawning pool that was already finished, you would want to react very differently than I'm going to be reacting here. So if you spot a pool that's just going down at around 14 when your probe gets when your probe's been there for a little bit, and he has a decent amount of drones, that's a standard pool timing. That's fine. You're just going to play the build out as I'm going to explain in the rest of this video. If, however, the spawning pool is already done, then you're going to expect lings. That's an early pool. That's what they call a 6 pool, a 7 pool, 8 pool, 9 pool, 10 pool. Anywhere along there with various degrees of committal, the Zerg can try and get something out. What you want to do is you need to determine how early of a pool it was. If you see only 5 drones, it's a 5 or 6 drones, it's probably a 6 pool. And he's going to be doing something cheesy, like really cheesy, and there's no way that you can hold your natural. So what you're going to do in that situation is you're going to cancel. Well, you're not going to cancel this pylon. You're going to send a probe from your main base right away. As soon as you scout it, you go to your main base and you build a forge at your natural. That forge is going to die no matter what, so you just build it there. It's going to die, whatever. You need that forge up, though, because you need to build a cannon in your mineral line. So let's say that was the case. I'm going to build a pylon right here. If it's a 6 pool, I'm going to build my second pylon right here, and as soon as that forge finishes down there, I'm going to build a cannon right in my mineral line so that the edge of my cannon covers at least one of my gases. Like this. You can see the radius of the cannon when you build it. You want it to cover this little bit of the gas so that the Zerglings can't attack this gas. So a little bit extended over this gas. So you're going to build all your buildings now within range of the cannon. You're just going to get a gateway, a gas, and another pylon, and you're going to try and get some sentries and a mothership core, or zealots and a mothership core, and you're going to expand after that, and then everything else will be pretty much fine. You'll have an economic lead, and you got to keep scouting in, but like that's a tough situation. But the way that you respond to a 6 pool, or a very, very early pool, is to get a cannon in your mineral line and cover your gas with it and tech up from there until you feel safe to expand. I'm going to play this game out as though there was no 6 pool, and if any of my students watch this and they want coaching on how to hold a 6 pool after they've learned the standard style, I can go more in depth on that. But this video isn't about how to hold a 6 pool, it's just about how to get in a macro game. So let's say that he scouted a 14 pool. That's a pretty standard build. I'm going to keep going from there. Okay, so he's got his gas. I'm going to pretend in this game that he's not getting his gas, just because that's kind of a silly thing that the computer does that doesn't really matter. Okay, so this build, on this 15th probe, I'm going to send this 16 supply, I'm going to send a probe, and I'm going to build my nexus right away. And this probe here, this first probe that you sent, he's going to go in the natural expansion of your opponent, and he's going to just patrol in this little area, and you want to delay that as much as possible without losing the probe. So you don't want him to let this get down. So you're just going to send this probe here, okay? Now immediately when you're at enough minerals, you build your forge, and what your forge is going to do is you're going to get cannons up and all that good stuff. So after your forge, you're going to get a gateway, you're going to get a pylon. This is all, you're cutting probes right now, you're not building probes. So you're going to get a gateway, your second pylon, and now you're going to wait until you have enough money for your first cannon. And then you're going to put your cannon down as soon as the forge finishes. So let's just get this guy here right in position. This guy's still not building a base. By now your probe will be chased out of there, and you'll go to the third. And you're going to build this cannon right here. Okay. Now you're going to take your your first 2 gases, okay, in your main. You're going to start making probes again, and then you're going to use this probe. Constantly check for the third base from the Zerg. So the next step in here, if you've seen his natural go down, you haven't seen anything cheesy so far. So far, so good. You need to have this probe patrolling around his third base to see if he has a third. You don't need to delay this third too much. If you get to this point where if you get to this point in the game where you have your cannon started, you have your probe here, and he still doesn't have a third, you keep your probe here and you see if he tries to take a third. And if he sends a drone here, it's okay for you to put a pylon down here actually, and to delay this third a little bit, because he's trying to get his third up. He's not trying to do anything cheesy. You see the drone, so you just keep this guy here and you build pylon or whatever, and that'll delay it for a little bit, and that's good. If you don't see a third here, by a third base here or at his other one, like every base you can basically tell, every map you can tell where they're going to take their third usually. If you haven't seen a third at either of the 2 locations, you go into defense mode. So defense mode, you play a little bit different. You want to get a second cannon at your natural expansion. That's the first thing. You want to not send your units out into the map generally. If you already know there's no third, you want to make a sentry back home as soon as you can, and a mothership core, and you want to scout the corners of your base so that there's no nidus worms. So that's like your defensive mode. You just want to focus on not dying to anything, and getting a robo up as soon as possible, and scouting his base with a hallucination if you can, to see if he's doing spire or whatever, and then you react from there. Again, this is not about that kind of a game. That's a kind of a weird game usually. That's not a standard build from Zerg. If they do a 2-base build, I can coach you on that if any of my students want that. This is focused more on just a macro style. So I'm going to just pretend that he gets a third down here. Okay. So as soon as your gateway is done, you want to get your cybernetics core, and you want to make it so that you have a little gap about one spot thick right here. And you're going to, let's say he has a third. You're going to send your first zealot to the third. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. You don't have to. That's a stylistic thing, but let's just say you do. And make sure you get your gases. That's really important. And this is where this is where you start to deviate. There's different things you can do from here. So either you can go. The 2 most common things I will go over are Stargate and robotics facility openings. for this kind of a game. So there's strengths and weaknesses of each. So if you go for a robotics facility very fast, you can start getting your Colossus tech up really fast. You can get fast immortals to protect your third base. You can get so you can take really faster third bases generally with an immortal opening. You can get an observer out really fast, which is really nice, and you can do warp prism shenanigans. Those are all really good options. The thing that the robotics facility is weak to is mutalisks. That's your only real scary thing, is mutalisks. Mutalisks will absolutely demolish if you commit too heavily to a robotics facility. So if you open robotics, the thing that you scout for is a spire, and if you see a spire, you have to change your game plan and see if he's going mutalisks, and if he does, then you either want to throw down 2 or 3 Stargates and crank out Phoenix, or you want to get Blink really fast and lots of cannons. I would recommend the Stargate thing. I think in Heart of the Swarm, Stargate is the strongest choice. If you open Stargate before Robo, you're going to want to get some Phoenixes out really fast, which kind of makes him less likely to go mutalisk. You can crank out 5 or 6 Phoenixes and they'll give you map control, but the thing with those early Phoenixes is you kind of have to make them worth your while. You have to do some damage with them, and you have to have them multitasking to be able to macro back at home. You'll see a lot of master level players opening with Phoenixes. That's how I like to open up. I like being active with them and doing damage, but not everyone has the APM, and I'm going to assume for the sake of this video that you don't know that you don't have the multitasking to do that. And if that's the case, then you're going to want to open Robo, and I think it's a perfectly fine choice to open Robo and to take your third base with that. So I'm going to just open Robo this game and show you how to play that. So I want to constantly make probes. It's very good. And you don't need to rally, you don't need to worry about any of these 2 bases transferring probes until you're at 16 probes on this base. When you're at 16 probes in your main, and you have 3 guys on each gas, you're at 16 probes, you're at optimal saturation for this base. You rally this nexus over to your natural, until this base has 16 probes as well. So this is at 16 now. I'm going to rally both of these over to my natural. I'm going to start making a sentry down here. This zealot is over here. This zealot he's just for map control, scouting, things like that. You can try and kill some probes with him or whatever. It's not too important. So now I'm going to get my robotics facility. Okay, I'm going to take my gases over here. I'm going to put this guy on the watchtower. And I'm going to keep chronoing probes all the time and make my mothership core as soon as I can, while still making sentries and all that goodness. Okay, so this guy's out. Let's get these guys on gas. Okay, I think I need another pylon. Get this. Okay. So the next thing that you want after you get your first tech building is 3 more gateways. That's a very, very, very standard. You want to get up to 4 gateways. You already have 1, so you add 3. After you get your robotics facility and you have the money, you want to get 3 more gateways, because gateway units are kind of the putty that fill in all your other of the holes in your play. If he goes Mutalist, you don't want to be caught with just Immortals. If he goes, you know, a lot of Roach Hydra, you want some beefy Sentry, Stalker units underneath them to keep them safe. So it's always good to get lots of gateways. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3 more gateways as soon as I have the money. So let's take this guy here. You want to make, for this video I'm going to show getting an observer fast. I like getting an observer as your first thing from your robotics facility. Start your +1 weapons as soon as you can. Get this mothership core out of here. Okay, so you're going to go add 3 gateways here. Again, try to constantly make pylons whenever you can. You never want to get supply blocked. Okay, so once this observer's building, I'm going to start making an immortal from this robotics facility. Because my goal is to be able to kill a sort of roach-ling mix, which is their early units as I'm trying to take my third, pretty easily so that they can't kill it. If they do get Hydralisks, really fast, if you scout with this observer and you see hydralisks, it's okay to stay on 2 bases for a little bit longer and to instead opt to take a faster robotics bay and to get some Colossus out before you take your third. So this one, I see a Roach Warren. He's not going to have any other bases, but let's just say he has 3 bases. So if he's doing some Roach pressure, that's fine. We can wait till we get our first warp in. We're going to make a second Immortal, and we're going to take our third base as soon as we have that in place. So let's do this. Make another pylon here. Send this guy over here. Okay, this guy can go here to spot this mothership core. This mothership core is really key because he can't really be hit by anything for now. So I'm going to take my little group of units here, and I'm going to take this base, and I'm going to make a little wall. It's important that you do the same thing with your third as you did with your natural. You want to make a nice little choke point for you to defend. You don't have to wall all the way across, but you do want to make a little choke point so that his units can't come around your units and hug them and do a surround. Your units want to fight in one area where they come in one choke and no other choke. So that what lets you do that on Daybreak, for example, is creating a choke here with these buildings. So you're going to put a gateway here, 2 gateways here, a pylon here, and a cannon here maybe. And then the only way that they can come in is here. And then if they do come up this area, as I'm pointing on the minimap here, up your other ramp, then you can force field the back, or you can wall that off, or whatever. You'll know about it, and you can kind of take a different fight that way. For now, I'm just going to show walling off this area here. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to throw down a robotics facility, or a robotics bay, because I'm assuming by now he's getting Hydras, because that's what they do in Heart of the Swarm. And you're constantly scouting. You're scouting with this observer that you have out here for things like a spire, and for
upgrade complete.
Things like that. So that's the first 10 minutes of the matchup. That's very simply the first 10 minutes. And from here, this is where the real skill gets in. These first 10 minutes, if you account for all the little all-ins and cheesy things that they can do, off of 2 bases, you're going to get up to 3 bases perfectly fine. And you're going to get what you want to do from here is you want to get Colossus up, you want to get Blink up, and you want to get eventually High Templar and things like that going against the Zerg. So you want to make kind of you've heard the term a death ball. From here, it's pretty easy to get a death ball. You get your robotics bay up, and you use force fields to hold this area, and you constantly scout the tech that the Zerg makes and make something that beats that tech. So if you see a Spire, throw down some Stargates. It's fine to throw down some Stargates, but you have to scout and make sure that he's making the units that are good. So like that you have units that are good against. So like let's say you see him making Mutalisks, it's really, really important that you make lots of Phoenixes to counter those Mutalisks. If, however, he's just going for a big Corruptor ball, then you want to make Void Rays instead, and lots of Stalkers and stuff like that. But that's all like really basic stuff. That's really intuitive. You can figure that out on your own. For now, we'll focus on getting your 3 bases up, add lots of gateways, and play the game from there. This video is not gonna cover that other stuff. So from here, yeah, if he comes, let's say he comes in here, you just want to wall off like here and here kind of thing. And if he comes in here, you can do really easy force field walls like this, and you have your mothership core spotting here, and you have all that kind of goodness. From here, obviously, you want to get a Twilight Council so that you can start your upgrades as fast as possible. You always want to have this forge building things. You never want to have an idle forge if you can help it. And you want to get Colossus range as soon as possible and add lots and lots of gateways. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say here, as I kind of rambled a little bit, I apologize, is that you want to get your natural base as fast as possible while being safe without building anything in between. And then you want to take your third off of Sentry Immortal if he's going Roaches. That's fine to do. If he's going for Hydralisks, you can wait until you have Colossi. That's fine. If he's going Mutalisk, then you can get some Stargates up and do that kind of thing and make some lots of Phoenixes. But don't try and just sit on 2 bases. It's very, very key that you get on 3 bases in this matchup. Otherwise, your options are very, very, very limited. 3 bases is where the Protoss has the most flexibility to do the most kind of cool stuff. I think that'll about do it for this video. I'm going to be making two more. I'm going to be making PVT and PVT the first 10 minutes if this video is received well. If anyone wants any more coaching on anything that I've talked about in this video, we'll go over that in our next session. And if anyone else is watching this who isn't a student, I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, just leave me a comment in the boxes below. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that